Warning: this video contains spoilers and footage of Campaign Evolved. Please click off if you do not want that. Thank you.
Master Chief is coming to PlayStation. Just let that sentence sit for just 1 second, because if you would have said that out loud in 2010, people would have checked you into a mental asylum. Halo was the reason a lot of us bought an Xbox in the first place. It was a system seller, the console mascot, the entire reason Xbox meant anything as a brand. And on July 28th, 2026, the game that started all of it is landing on a Sony console for the first time in 25 years. So here is the question everybody's actually asking underneath all the marketing copy and the nostalgia bait. Is this game worth your time and money? And I'm not going to stand here and give you a clean yes or no, because the honest answer is a lot more difficult to give. It depends entirely on who you are, what you already own, and what you actually want out of this game. So if you stick with me, by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly where you fall. If you're new to the channel, I cover Halo and Marathon all the time. I try to dig into what these games are actually trying to achieve and do versus what they're just telling you they're doing. If you're new to the channel, I cover Halo and Marathon. Those are my fortes, although some people would argue that Marathon is on its way out, which sucks because I actually enjoy that game. But for Halo, I do news videos, breakdowns of like aesthetics and stuff like that. I just really love Halo. And I could be your third favorite Halo YouTuber if you subscribe. I'm trying to hit 25,000 subs by the end of the year. If you enjoy this video, if it helped you at all, make sure you leave a like. Hype it up if you're on mobile, because that's the only way that YouTube helps spread any of your videos anymore. And one more quick thing before we go any further, because all of you deserve to know this going into this video. Halo Studios sent me a review copy of this game, but I was not paid for this video or anything else tied to it. I was also a part of a feedback program earlier in development alongside other Halo creators and community members, where we gave the team direct critique. This was also unpaid. There was like no strings attached or anything. You could be as nice or as mean as you wanted to. They actually listened to everybody. There were a lot of conversations around this game and how to make it better. And I say all of that just to be transparent, because to me, it doesn't change the verdict that you're about to hear in this video. But before we talk about whether it's worth buying, I think we need to talk about what this game is actually trying to do and who it's actually for, because Halo Studios has been pretty upfront about this. This isn't being pitched as a fan service game. It's almost being pitched as kind of a, I don't know, rescue mission. With everything that's going on with Xbox and Halo Studios and gaming in general, these are pretty uncertain times for IPs and studios and developers and publishers. But once we knew that this game was coming to PS5, the executive producer said, "We hope to bring along the series veterans who have been with us for the past 25 years and have them play with an entirely new generation. There are people who have never been exposed to Halo. Maybe they've always been on Sony products, they switched consoles at a certain point, or just missed it at the time. We want to bring players back together." The creative director also said, "Halo is best played when we have a large, healthy community." And I think all of this kind of frames this release as growth strategy instead of just a remake, remaster type of thing. If you read between the lines, it's obvious. Halo's audience has, unfortunately, been shrinking for years. It's fractured across console generations, lapsed players who drifted off after, Halo Reach, community that argues with itself like by the minute on literally anything, not just Sprint. And Campaign Evolved isn't just like a pretty coat of paint on a 25-year-old game. It's Halo Studios trying to build a new like front door that's going to be nice enough, inviting enough wide enough for a PlayStation 5 audience who's never touched a Halo game, who's never been in a Warthog, but it needs to appeal to those 20-year veterans when they look at that door and they're like, oh yeah, this is still Halo. The other goal that's like behind all this is the project grew out of Project Foundry, which was an internal Unreal Engine prototype that Halo eventually showed off. They have said that the legacy Blam engine code is still running underneath. It's got the new Unreal visuals. And this is going to be like the future of Halo. This is what it's going to look like. This is how it's going to feel. I wouldn't say that Campaign Evolved is a tech demo wearing like a nostalgia costume, but this is the future of Halo. So what's in the box? There's 3 editions. There's a standard, premium, and collector's edition. You're not going to get the collector's edition because it's sold out and the people selling it on eBay are absolutely mentally insane. But the standard price is sitting below that, new AAA standard of like $70. It's $49.99. Premium is the $69.99. Premium and collectors owners get up to 5 days of early access starting July 23rd. And then everybody else gets to play on July 28th. So if you're already paying for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate or the PC Game Pass, the standard experience is included at no extra charge on day one. But the early access window isn't automatically part of your subscription. Just keep that in mind. What you're getting for that money is a full ground up remake of Combat Evolved's original missions in the Unreal Engine with new lighting, redesigned encounters, re-recorded voice lines from Steve Downes and Jen Taylor, who do the Master Chief and Cortana, and I would say mission structures that are largely faithful to what you remember from the original instead of just reimagined from scratch. On top of that, you get new prequel missions starring the Master Chief and Sergeant Johnson a year before the original story, where you're busting up on a Covenant vessel that's in orbit above the glass human colony of Promise. We're gonna talk about that separately in this video, but I was pleasantly surprised and pleased with that. You also get 4-player online co-op with full crossplay across every platform, 2-player split screen, and Campaign Remix, which will throw randomized enemies, weapons, and skull modifiers onto these levels so it doesn't actually play out the same way every single time. I really feel like this is how they're trying to add replayability to this game. But here's the part that's going to matter to a lot of people, and that is there is no multiplayer. None, no rank, no custom games, no classic Blood Gulch, no firefight either. If you want PvP Halo, as of right now, you gotta go to the Master Chief Collection or Halo Infinite because Campaign Evolved is exactly what its name says. It's Campaign Evolved. Now, I think there's a reason why there is no multiplayer included with this remake, and if they're making Halo 2 and Halo 3 in the future, I'm not so sure that there's going to be multiplayer with them. I think we're going to find out more at Halo Fest, but there's so many leaks and rumors going around, we'll just have to wait and see. Before we start talking about the missions and everything like that and the prequel, I want to talk about the new weapons and sandbox changes. There are a ton of new weapons that were not playable in the original campaign or the Anniversary Remaster. This includes the energy sword, the battle rifle, the fuel rod, the sentinel beam, the needle rifle, the SMG, the brute plasma rifle, the spiker and beam rifle. And some of these existed in universe, but they weren't usable by the player, like the energy sword. Now, you may be asking yourself, do these really change the game and whatnot? And I will say that using like the fuel rod in this game and the needle rifle, I love the needle rifle. I put that thing on all the time. And since this game is like super focused on just the, single player experience, the explosions and whatnot from the fuel rod cannon, man, looks phenomenal. There are new enemies like the brutes. They are mostly tied to the prequel missions, but with Campaign Remix and stuff, you can get them in the original levels. There's also been some changes to the weapons, like aiming down sight. The assault rifle, the Needler, can do that. But does ADS on classic hipfire weapons help modernize the gunplay, or does it undercut what made those weapons distinct in the first place? And I think that's up to the user. The Warthog also now seats 4 instead of 3. They got a rear bumper spot, very cool. But again, it kind of feels sad that we're getting all these like weapons and stuff, and there's just no multiplayer, man. I'm gonna say that a lot, I think. I'm gonna try to edit it out. Let's talk about the extremely new, the prequel missions. Like I said, it was set 1 year before combat evolved. You're doing a Black Ops raid on a Covenant agriculture and research ship. What you're looking for, and these are spoilers from like here on out, is data that could lead to high charity. So what starts as a stealth mission just gets blown wide open, and a huge undertaking happens after that. This was co-written by Troy Denning, who is a Halo tie-in novelist. It's real canon. This is not just like alternate timeline stuff. This is actual canon to Halo now. Basically, you're going up against a prophet who's a bit of a mad scientist who's doing experiments on his own subjects. The aesthetics of this ship, and it all feels and looks Halo, but in a completely different way. It's much more darker and more body horror than Halo normally gets, and I actually appreciate that. There's also that space combat mission. I don't want to show off too much, but it was good, in my opinion. It felt good. Another reason that they're doing this, I think, is to give Johnson a bigger role. I think that they have finally realized how much people love Sergeant Johnson and want him in more stories. I know he's dead in the canon, like in the future and stuff, but that should not stop them from incorporating him into other material just like this. And I think that this is a test bed for future like spin-off games, spin-off stories. Can absolutely see this becoming a new thing. Now, across the internet, I've seen people kind of split on this, and I think that's worth taking into consideration. I think if you're a Halo fan, you're going to enjoy this no matter what. If you're somebody that's brand new to the series, it's probably not as big of a deal to you, like that you're finally, after like 20-some years, getting new Sergeant Johnson content. But they are good, and they get a little repetitive. The levels get a little repetitive, which, I mean, in Campaign Evolved, or Combat Evolved, the OG, that's kind of a slice out of the Halo pie, but overall, I give it a very good grade. Something to know is that all these missions ship with every edition. There's no like gatekeeping or schedule keeping, I guess, which is the right decision, honestly. Moving on from the prequel stuff, I want to talk about Campaign Evolved as a whole, and this includes art and aesthetic direction, sound and audio design, comparisons to the OG, and how it all stacks up. Now, for the art and aesthetic, that is something that is so important to me, that's so near and dear to my heart. Campaign Evolved is probably going to be, quote-unquote, the best-looking Halo that we've ever had in terms of graphics and realism, but Combat Evolved holds such a special place in my heart. That was my first Halo game, and I love that 2000s liminal, surrealist type of atmosphere that game had. And I went back and forth on how I wanted to do this section of the video because I don't want to sound too biased. I want to go in as somebody who appreciates the old games, but I can separate the opinion enough for new players. But some feedback that people have given throughout the lifespan of the marketing for Campaign Evolved, and myself included, straight to Halo Studios, is the Forerunner architecture. In the original Combat Evolved, it's monolithic, it's brutalist, it's blocky, it's weathered, it's almost, it looks like it's carved from stone. And in Campaign Evolved, when it was first being shown off, a lot of people said it looked too sleek, too shiny, too metallic, sharp angles. And it's weird because I feel like Halo Infinite did a really good job of like going back to Forerunner architecture. Now, in the review game that I got to play, it does look like they've added a lot more weathering, both to the outdoor exteriors of the Forerunner architecture and the interiors. I will say that there is like one section of Forerunner aesthetic that is so bright, and it's when you're outside in any snow environment. I don't know if it's a combination of the snow and the white and the architecture of the Forerunner stuff, but it is bright and shiny. But other than that, it does feel a little bit more weathered. It's not as monolithic or brutalist, but I think it's an okay compromise at this point. Now, Marcus Leto, the original art director on Combat Evolved, and one of the main people who is responsible for how Halo looked in the first place, saw that reveal footage and said he loved it. He said the new version looks and feels genuine and called it gorgeous in a way he wishes his team could have built back in 2001. And that's a pretty strong endorsement. Now, there are other devs from back in the day who did not have as shining of a review, and that's worth noting too. Now, I do feel at a macro level that the art direction and everything like that is not just being redesigned from scratch. I think that they do stay close to the original while also giving their own twist on it. And I don't think that this is a case of same bones, shinier skin. And I look at something like the CE anniversary game that, man, it's just, I will say right now that this game, this iteration of Combat Evolved and Campaign Evolved, so much better than that anniversary edition. For sound and audio, the score is remastered, not replaced. Voice acting had Steve Downs and Jen Taylor re-record audio lines. There are new voice actors for like Keys and for Sergeant Johnson. And while at first I was not caught off guard, I could tell they were different, having played Combat Evolved so many times. But the more I played, the less I noticed it. And I think that that's a good sign. They also said that they fully rebuilt the sound design for deeper immersion. And quite honestly, I do think that most of the weapons and sound effects do sound really good. Nothing is ever perfect, but I think that they did a good job. I want to give some direct comparisons that I think people will want. And that goes with, the OG game, CE Anniversary, how they compare. The CE Anniversary was just, I would say, a visual remaster over the original engine. But with Campaign Evolved, it's, a full Unreal Engine 5 rebuild. It's a different product entirely. But I think that they're going to get compared constantly, especially like in the comments. Now, something to note is that the Master Chief Collection already has Combat Evolved and Anniversary, and the actual PvP multiplayer game. And while I wish that MCC would have just came to PlayStation, that's not the reality that you or I live in. And this is how Halo is being introduced to people on that platform. So they don't have access to MCC at all. This is how they're going to experience Halo now and forever. Like I said before, I don't think it's fair for me to sit here and try to compare Campaign Evolved against something that I am probably extremely biased against from memories, how much it meant to me back in the day and now. But like I said, it absolutely dog walks Anniversary. Something else to note is that there is a third-person mode. I actually think this is pretty sick. I don't know if that's sacrilege to say, but I like looking at myself. There is no photo mode or theater mode, but you can get a workaround with like the blind skull and stuff like that. I don't love that there's no firefight or anything like that, especially without having any multiplayer PvP stuff in there. I really think that Halo needs to launch, feature complete, content complete, and while I understand that this is not a full Halo game release, I think a lot of people will still point at it and being like, oh, you can't even get theater mode in this, what the hell? And I get that. I think that that's, a fair point, to be completely honest. But as of right now, there's no live service plans, there's no planned firefight or DLC or ongoing content. Apparently, this is it. This is the complete static package. Good or bad, and depending on whether this is one and done, I can see this as a huge missed opportunity. Now, who is this actually built for? And I think Halo Studios has been pretty honest that this isn't a product that is trying to please everybody equally. And it's going to be different depending on your history with the franchise. If you're a PlayStation player who has never touched Halo, I truly believe that this is going to be one of the best entry points the series has ever offered. You're going to get that foundational story of the entire universe. You're getting it with modern visuals, modern controls, modern quality of life changes for less than the price of most AAA games this year. And you can play this with 3 friends, regardless of whatever platform they're on. And I think that's so important for Halo's future. If you're a lapsed Xbox player who hasn't touched Halo since, I don't know, the 360 days, I think this is a low risk way to get back into it. You already own those memories and the story in your head, so the appeal here is seeing them rebuilt, plus these new prequel missions that you've never played before, plus co-op with, I don't know, your kid or your old college roommate who finally got a PlayStation. But, and this is the big but, and it's a hard sell, if you're a current active Halo player who already owns the Master Chief Collection, I think this is where things get very complicated because you already own this quote-unquote campaign. You've already owned the multiplayer that this game doesn't have. Really, the only things that you're paying for are a visual overhaul, those 3 new missions, and being able to hop into a Wraith tank. Whether that's worth it to you is going to be a different answer from pretty much every person. And I think Halo Studios also knows that. I think this is why the marketing keeps talking about new players and reconnecting the community instead of just talking to this type of player directly. Now, I will say, if you are a Halo fan, I think you're going to get it. I think it's good. I think Halo fans are also starved for any type of Halo content at this point, and I actually think that they're going to enjoy this game. Now, I don't think that it has like a ton of replayability for them after, you know, a couple of sessions with the campaign remix and everything, but that remains to be seen, and maybe I'm wrong. I want to circle back to the multiplayer stuff because I do think that it's a very bold decision to attempt to reconnect the Halo community and introduce new people into the Halo community without multiplayer. And that includes even PvE stuff like Firefight. Now, I want to believe that's because there is some type of multiplayer experience coming soon. Can't say immediately after this game launches, but it's got to be within the next year. While I love Halo's campaigns and Halo's stories and the universe and everything like that, the multiplayer to me is what keeps it going. It's what keeps people coming back day after day after day. I think that not having the multiplayer inside of Campaign Evolved, that would complicate whatever the next Halo mainline multiplayer is supposed to be and when it's shipping, and you don't want to fragment the community. I mean, they already have MCC and Infinite to add. Campaign Evolved would split it up even more, and then whatever the next Halo multiplayer game is, you split it up even more. So I think that the reason they're doing this is smart, but less so if that multiplayer stuff doesn't come out soon. All right, so is it worth buying? And this is the point where I actually answer that question. And just like I alluded to before, it's going to be based around who you are and your experience with Halo. If you're on PlayStation 5, you've never played Halo before, I think you are safe to buy it. Just full stop. The price tag for the story that built an entire, I don't know, genre and console with co-op support. It's about as low risk an entry point into this franchise ever. And I also don't think that you're not missing multiplayer that you never had in the first place. If you're Game Pass Ultimate or a PC Game Pass sub, there's no reason to not play. It's already included in that subscription that you're paying for, so just try it out. It's very simple. You already own the Master Chief Collection. You're a current Halo player. This is where it really does the most work. Like I said, you're paying that price for a visual overhaul and some new missions and vehicle hijacking. You already know the story. You're not getting the multiplayer that MCC has. But if those new missions and doing the game 4-player online co-op with friends on other platforms excites you, I think that the worth proposition of this game is great. If you're buying it to purely relive nostalgia, that's an itch that's not going to get scratched. And if you love competitive Halo multiplayer, yeah, don't buy it. There's just no reason. This isn't your game. Halo Studios has been upfront about that fact. It's not a bait and switch or anything like that. Just save your money for whatever comes next. So that's where I land on it. It's not a blanket yes. It's not a blanket no. It's a genuine, it depends on which Halo player you are. Now, after saying all of that, I want to hear your verdict too, especially if you're coming from the PlayStation side or if you're a lapsed player or just a Halo fan. Leave your comments down below. You are helping other people decide whether or not spending money, their hard-earned money on this game is worth it. I'm just one person, just one voice, just one brain giving you my opinions. But I see the economy out there, your money, it goes a long way or a short way now. I'm not actually sure. I just know that people aren't spending as much money on things that, they normally would entertainment wise. So help out your fellow gamer. If this helped you make up your mind, the like button helps me out a ton, helps reach people that are asking the same question. Subscribing means that you won't miss any more of my content, and we can keep talking about Halo and Marathon. And until then, I will see you on the other side. Peace.